This video makes me proud to be an American. Take a look.
I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution, and I always will. Anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again. But what the president maintained that day, and frankly has said over and over again over the last 2.5 years, is completely false. I dismissed it out of hand, but sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear.
Well said from Mike Pence, and he is right. A group of crackpot lawyers, people like Rudy Giuliani or Sidney Powell, almost led to the downfall of our liberal democracy. And you and I probably disagree with Mike Pence on just about every single issue, but we are all pro-democracy. We all believe that the Constitution needs to be upheld. We all believe in the peaceful transfer of power. So I do respect that about Mike Pence. It can't be easy to stand against your own side when they're all sending death threats, all calling to hang you. But Mike Pence, let's say, led the effort of a bunch of Republicans who are now turning their backs against Donald Trump. We have George W. Bush. George W. Bush will not support the re-election of Donald Trump, according to people familiar with his thinking. The New York Times reported Saturday in this article is a few years old, but the paper said the former president and Texas governor won't vote for Trump's re-election. And then his brother, former Florida governor, Jeb Bush, quote, isn't sure how he'll vote, the paper spotlights. Several members of the Republican Party who are dissenting from party lines, and these are high-up members in the party, for example. Here's Dick Cheney Bush's VP, who is far from perfect. Trust me, but at least he understands the threat that Donald Trump poses. Watch.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it.
Donald Trump absolutely knows it, keep in mind everybody around him, everybody in his cabinet, including his kids, including Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner. They all told him, hey, there is no evidence of election fraud. You got to stop spreading this lie, man. Bill Barr said in interviews there was no evidence of election fraud. Donald Trump was making it up and decided to trust lawyers like Rudy Giuliani over more established people, in the same way that he trusted Donald Trump Jr. when looking for his VP pick. But I honestly think that George W. Bush, lack of endorsement is really big, because obviously George W. Bush is probably not a good person. We probably disagree with him on a lot. He did a lot of terrible stuff as president, but somebody who has been in that role understands the oath that you take and the weight, the responsibility of being the president of the United States. And George W. Bush understands that Donald Trump is not fit to be president. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these Republicans will be voting for VP Harris down like low-key. They will be voting for VP Harris. This is an article I love to revisit because it just, if you have Republican family members, a really good gotcha question that is super simple is, why did Donald Trump need new VP? Why did Donald Trump need to replace Mike Pence? What was it? I've asked Republicans that before, and it makes them think for a second, and they're like, I honestly don't know. And then either you can educate them and tell them, hey, it was because of January 6th, or they come to that conclusion on their own. But this article is great. There is a long list of one-time allies and aides who have either turned against former President Donald Trump or whom he has turned against no person in US politics. Certainly, no recent president has such an expansive list of high-profile enemies. Let's go through a few of these. Make sure you leave a like on the video and comment a blue heart if you've made it this far. So his VP Mike Pence said, quote, the American people deserve to know that President Trump asked me to put him over my oath to the Constitution bill. Barr, his second attorney general, quote, someone who was engaged in that type of bullying about a process that is fundamental to our system and to our self-government shouldn't be anywhere near the Oval Office. And of course, a lot of these people are spineless. So Bill Barr has flipped on this statement, but when this article was written less than a year ago, all of these people had said these things. All of these people were against Donald Trump. His first Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, quote, "Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us another, good gotcha question, for your Republican friends or family members or co-workers. Why have so many people turned on Donald Trump? Why have so many people close to Donald Trump turned on him so quickly when he apparently picks the best people? Donald Trump loves to play victim. So he says that all the people on this list backstabbed him, stabbed him in the back. But apparently he somehow also picks the best people. His chairman of the Joint Stees, retired General Mark Milley, seemed to invoke Trump. This one was massive and powerful, quote, "We don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it." I've always found this moment to be incredibly powerful. Here is President Biden sitting there, and here is retired General Mark Milley talking about Trump being a want-to-be dictator.
It's not about us. It's about something much larger than all of us. It's about our democracy. It's about our republic. We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's militaries. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take...
The way he said that with so much contempt in his voice just tells you he was thinking about Donald Trump. And this was only a few weeks after January 6th, so it was freshly on his mind. And it's funny that he dropped that king line. We don't take an oath to a king. And about a few years later, 3 years later, we got a Supreme Court ruling that said that the president can be a king if they want. And we know damn well that Donald Trump would take advantage of that. Let's go on the list a little bit more. His first Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, quote, "Trump's understanding of global events, his understanding of global history, his understanding of US history was really limited. It's really hard to have a conversation with someone who doesn't even understand the concept. For why we're talking about this in this tracks, many people have said he has the understanding of foreign policy, of an actual fifth grader, of an actual kindergartner. He genuinely doesn't understand most of the topics that presidents have to engage in. He even said that he didn't know what NATO was before he was the president, and he was like 72 years old. His presidential transition, Vice Chairman Chris Christie, quote someone who, I would argue, is now just out for himself. Chris Christie has said a lot worse since then. His second National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, quote, "We saw the absence of leadership, really anti-leadership, and what that can do to our country." His third National Security Advisor, John Bolton, quote, "I believe foreign leaders think he is a laughing fool." His former acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, who resigned as a US Special Envoy to Ireland after January 6th, quote, "I quit because I think he failed to being the president when he needed him to be that Scaramucci. He is the domestic terrorist of the 21st century, Stephanie Grisham. I am terrified of him running in 2024. I could go on and on down the list. There are so many people that were close with Donald Trump that now say he is not fit to be president. And what does that tell you? What does that tell you? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like comment, a blue heart. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. We're so close to 300,000 subscribers. We might be able to hit it today with your help. But most importantly, make sure you have a great rest of your day.